Okay, so let's get right into it. You know that gut feeling you get about someone? The one that turns out to be spot on? Well, what if I told you it wasn't a gut feeling at all? What if you actually made it true? We're about to break down a fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling experiment that shows just how powerful our own minds can be in shaping the people around us.
So yeah, that's the big question here. Can your thoughts, your private expectations, actually change how another person behaves? It sounds kind of wild, right? Like something out of a movie. But a really clever experiment actually put this to the test to see what would happen.
All right, so let's set the scene. We got to go back to 1978. You've got these two researchers, Mark Schneider and Bill Schwan, and they were totally fascinated by this idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, the whole concept that if you truly believe something's going to happen, you kind of nudge it into happening without even realizing it. To see if this was for real, they came up with this brilliant, simple setup they called the noise gun experiment.
So picture this. The whole thing is set up like a game show. They take two strangers, we'll just call them Mustafa and Mahmoud, who have never seen each other before. The game is super simple. First one to answer 24 questions wins. But there's a twist. Each of them has a noise gun. Now, it's not dangerous or anything. Its only purpose is to blast this horrible, distracting noise to mess with the other guy. Pretty straightforward, right? But this is where the real experiment begins.
Right before they start, one of the researchers pulls Mahmoud to the side, and he whispers this little piece of intel about the other guy, and it's a total lie, just to be clear. Mustafa's just some random dude. But that one little lie, that one tiny piece of false information, that was everything.
So what do you think happens? Mahmoud, who now thinks he's facing some super aggressive competitor, he goes on the offensive. First chance he gets, he grabs that noise gun and just blasts it. His aggression level is way, way higher than the baseline. He isn't responding to a threat, he is the threat. And it's all based on something that isn't even true.
Okay, now think about it from Mustafa's side. You walk in, you're ready to play a game, and boom, this total stranger is just relentlessly blasting you with noise. What are you going to do? You're going to fight back, right? Of course you are. So when Mustafa gets his turn, he gives it right back to Mahmoud. And just like that, Mahmoud's false belief is now 100% real. He was told to expect an aggressive guy, and because of that, he literally created one.
And this is just such a perfect example of this really powerful psychological idea. It actually has a name, behavioral confirmation. It's when your expectation about someone changes how you act, and your actions then push them to act in the very way you expected. Mahmoud treated Mustafa like he was aggressive, and so Mustafa became aggressive. Simple as that.
But hold on, if you think that's the big reveal, you're not even close. The story isn't over. In fact, the most mind-blowing part is still to come. The researchers had another trick up their sleeve.
Okay, so Mahmoud, the guy who was told the lie, he's done. He leaves the room. But Mustafa, the guy who was turned aggressive, he stays behind. And then a totally new person walks in. We'll call him Mohammed. Mohammed has no idea what just happened. He's a completely clean slate, told absolutely nothing.
And what happens next is what's truly stunning. The new game starts with this innocent player, Mohammed. And Mustafa, with zero provocation, he immediately goes on the attack. He's just as aggressive with Mohammed as he was with Mohammed. The hostility that he was taught in that first round, it didn't just go away.
This right here, this is the real kicker. Mohammed's lie didn't just start a fight. It actually fundamentally changed Mustafa. It rewired his behavior. He was now operating from a place of aggression, and he passed that aggression on to someone completely innocent. The hostility had basically become a virus, and it was spreading.
Now, you know, any good scientist is thinking, okay, but what about the flip side? Does this only work one way with negative stuff? So they had to find out what would happen if you planted a positive expectation instead.
So they did it all over again. Same game, same rules. But this time, the researcher pulls the first player aside and says, "Hey, just so you know, that other guy, Mustafa, he's a really cooperative, nice person." That's it. The only thing that changed was that one little sentence. And the results? A total 180. It completely flipped. The first player, believing his opponent was a good guy, hardly even touched the noise gun. The whole vibe changed. It became, well, cooperative. The conflict just vanished.
And the game was actually a positive experience for both of them. It's amazing.
I mean, just look at the difference here. It's night and day. You tell someone to expect a fight, you get a fight. You tell them to expect cooperation, you get cooperation. And the only variable, the only thing that was different, was that one little thought planted in one person's head at the very beginning.
Okay, so this is where things get bigger. The source material we're looking at today takes this lab experiment and blows it up. It asks a really tough question. If this works on 2 people in a room, could the same thing be happening on a global scale? Between entire countries or groups of people?
So the source puts forward a pretty heavy hypothesis. It suggests that if one country or one large group expects another group to be an enemy, they might act first, preemptively. And just like we saw with Mustafa, if you treat even a few innocent people from that group like they're a threat, this whole process of behavioral confirmation could actually make them become violent. And then that violence could spread to other innocent people, just like the aggression was passed from Mustafa to Muhammad. Now, I have to be really clear here. This is the source's hypothesis. It's their application of the theory, not a proven fact.
But look, whether we're talking about huge geopolitical conflicts or just, our day-to-day lives, the experiment keeps pulling us back to one simple, powerful idea: the power of one. This whole chain reaction, it all started with the expectation of just one person. That's all it took. And that brings us to the real takeaway, right? The point is, we're all running this experiment every single day with every person we meet. We don't even realize we're doing it. In every single interaction, you get to choose what seed you're going to plant. You can expect the worst in people and maybe create an enemy, or you can choose to expect the best and maybe create a friend.
So I'll leave you with this one last thought. It's really the most important question of all. When you go about your day, think about the people you interact with, your family, your coworkers, that person at the coffee shop. Who are you creating with your expectations today?